I'm going to be one of Jerry's bad amateurs. My question is negativity. It's out there. You can't get away from it. I'm able to be in a really good place.
We're going to play with you just for a little bit because your opening words, Jerry teases about the microphone and how he wants you to get right in there. And if you're a professional, you want to. And so you said, I'm going to be one of Jerry's bad amateurs. And then you said, I want to talk about negativity. And then you said, it's everywhere. And we say, it's everywhere someone who's feeling negative in the moment is. In other words, it will track you down.
That's the problem.
It's not everywhere. It's just everywhere you are when you are in that vibration. It's not everywhere. So that statement isn't true. Negative things follow people who feel negative. In other words, Jerry has to accept that there was something going on in his vibration for him to have had that very uncomfortable encounter. You just cannot get around it. In other words, you can describe it in any way you want to. You can't, but none of it's valid. I always get exactly what I'm offering vibrationally, no exception every time, which means I have a prayer of getting it the way I want it to, because since I'm the reason for it, I can change the vibration, and if I change the vibration, I'll get a different indication. But when you say negative indicators are everywhere and they don't have anything to do with me, that's where we stubbornly say, negative indicators are not everywhere. They're only where negative vibrations are. Where positive vibrations are, there are positive indicators everywhere. And in fairness, let's get this in perspective. Jerry gets thousands and thousands of positive indicators for every negative indicator, but when he gets one, it's a big one. And it's true of all of you. When there's something stuck in your vibrational craw that you really care about, it's going to show up and show up.
The law of attraction too, because material things, no problem. I just have to think about them. A couple of days they arrive. It's like, yeah. But to do things for me personally, like my health is going down the drain and the doctors pat you on the back and say you're fine, you're like, okay, if you say so. I can't do anything for myself personally, attraction-wise.
So earlier our friend said, I want to start telling a different story. And as you listen back to this recording, you're going to laugh a little bit because you are really good at making many statements that pile on top of each other in your description of things you don't want to live.
Right.
And all it is you've been trained into vivid description of current reality.
Right.
We think the conversation that we had with our friend earlier about, so which reality are you going to describe? Well, it's logical. Why? When you've been using your physical awarenesses to perceive your existence, that you would use the existence that you would be perceiving is the manifested one that you use your eyes and ears and so on to observe. But we're trying to entice you into an emotional observation of life rather than a sensual, in the sense of your five senses, observation of life. So your descriptive words are, it's hard, I'm not good at, the trouble I have is. And so it's helpful to just, can you speak of that in temporary terms rather than in such permanent terms? Can you say, I have had, but I'm moving from it, or I'm looking forward to a releasing of? In other words, just start morphing your story into a little bit more positive terms, because your expectation is what equals what comes to you. So
what I'm doing is expecting negativity out there because I think it's everywhere.
Because you've pronounced it everywhere, but you see, but give yourself a break. What? So I have this attitude, so the universe shows it to me. And now it's not just an attitude, it's confirmed by fact. So now I have this fact that matches my reality that I don't like, but there it is. So what are you going to do? Well, what most try to do is change the facts. But you get so lost in that. That's why, so finally what you have to say is, never mind that, because there's too many moving parts. I'm going to find a way to emotionally take a journey and get into the vortex. I'm going to find a different vibrational vantage point. Here's the strongest statement that we can make to you. What you think and what manifests always matches. What you think and how you feel match, and what manifests is always the indication of what you're thinking and confirmed by what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
What you think and what you feel and what manifests always match, which means the manifestation is the result of the thought. The manifestation is the indicator of the thought. Period. It's only an indicator of the thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a reality worth writing a historical document about. It's not a reality worth making a monument about. All it was a temporary indication of temporary vibration that people have made permanent by making a monument. You make the monument and you say, everyone in grades 3 through 12 must come to this monument and behold it. And we say, why? Because we want this reality to remain a firm reality. Do you know the only way a reality can remain a firm reality is if somebody keeps thinking about it and keeping it active? Have you ever moved out of a house that you still owned? Anyone? Have you ever stopped driving a car that you still own? And aren't you interested to notice that in your lack of attention, it literally begins to fall apart? In other words, you hold the molecules, we're not kidding you, you hold about them, they begin to lose their literal existence.
Mm-hmm.
You focus things into beingness. Now, you have to be sensitive to vibration in order to really get that, because it takes a while, because when something has been thought upon long enough that it becomes a physical reality, then it takes a while for it to wither, but it always does, the dust to dust thing that you talk about. So, did you get that? Did you feel that sort of settle into place? So if everything that is manifested is an indicator of thought, then shouldn't I be able to get any indicator that I choose by my direction of thought?
Yes.
So, but if I am so objective and so good at describing current reality, then things keep changing because they must.
Mm-hmm.
They just change to more of the same. So if I want them to change to something different, I have to think different thoughts. And that's where, when I know what I don't want, I know what I do want. Mm. So give us an example of something vivid, something important to you that isn't the way you want it to be. And just begin, you offer us a statement about it, and we'll find the other side of it. And together, in a very short period of time, we'll move your story into a better place.
Okay. The biggest thing that happened was I had a best friend. We hung out. We did everything together. She knows about Abraham. She was extremely jealous. We went on the Caribbean cruise. We came back, and we were still up. We were just like jazzed and everything. And her mood and her attitude just went down and down and down. And she started dragging me down with her, and I had to say, I can't do this anymore.
All right,
I had to cut off the relationship.
So now a lot happened there fast because we didn't cut you off soon enough. So it's all right. So let's walk back through that story. So
okay.
So in essence what you're saying is, I had a friend whom I have loved, mm-hmm. And we have thrived and prospered and moved forward together. Mm-hmm. But then, for reasons unknown to me, is that accurate? She took a dip in her vibration. Mm-hmm. So let's just take it that far. My friend lost her connection with Source. Mm-hmm. So what's the equal and opposite of that?
Regaining your connection to Source.
Or that you could say that. Mm-hmm. Or something softer might be, she found her connection to Source. She at one time had a connection of Source, which mm-hmm. now she doesn't have. But sometimes, so you hear that? So sometimes my friend is connected to Source, and sometimes she isn't. Mm-hmm. So now we want to just ask you a really simple question. We don't want to. We're not going to ask the question, "Where's your friend now?" Mm-hmm. And we're not going to ask the question, "What happened to your friend that caused her to take a vibrational nosedive?" We're going to ask a question that you can succeed succeed at in giving the answer. In other words, we're going to set you up for success with this question. Which feels better to you? To think of your friend in alignment or out of alignment?
In alignment.
Well, that's the only question that you need to ask yourself. In other words, because you can't do anything about your friend, but you can do something about whether you remember her aligned or you remember her out of alignment. Is that pretty clear?
Yeah.
So where you get hung up is, you, reality craving creature that you are, you say, it's too hard for me to imagine or remember her in alignment because now she's not. And we say, that's not a very good excuse. We say, which feels better? That's the criteria. Which feels better? Do you find yourself thinking about this friend from time to time?
Oh, yeah.
Even though you removed yourself physically, you stopped the relationship?
Yes.
So do you accept that this relationship is sort of an eternal relationship, that she's stuck in your vibrational craw? Do you accept that you have put a version of her into your vortex of creation? And do you accept that you can't look at her where she is now and maintain your alignment with your version of her?
Correct.
So do you accept that you feel better when you think of her in her vortex than you do when you think of her out of her vortex?
Yes.
And so what's the problem? I feel better when I think of this than when I think of that. And we say, so think of that. And you say, oh, that's all. That's like saying it's easier to take this route to work because it's the route to work I always take. Even though there are endless routes. Any of you have navigational systems? Have you ever noticed how many different ways there are to get to different places? Esther and Kate's 6 now, they take Garmin for a drive and they deliberately disobey her. They program her to a destination and then they go a different way. And they take delight in how many different ways that she can think of for them to go. And then they defy her again. They call her Lucy. She will say, please proceed to the highlighted route. And they will say, no way, Lucy. No way, we're not going. We want to see how nimble you are. We want to see how many ways you know. We want to see how many different streets there are. We want to see how many different things we might see on our long ride home. We want to see how this street interconnects with this one. We've been going the easy way for years and years and years and years. We want to show you a new route to get to where we want to be. Because there are endless routes to where you want to be. Endless, 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 endless. As long as you know where you want to be. I want to be in a good feeling thought when I focus on my friend. Period.
Okay.